They say blood is thicker than water, but does that justify destroying a husband's spirit? I finally reached my breaking point after my wife consistently put her daughter's cruelty above our relationship. I'm documenting this because I refuse to be a ghost in my own house while they laugh at my boundaries. If you're watching this right now, chances are you're sitting in your car, parked down the street from your own home, dreading the moment you have to turn the key in the front door. Or maybe you're lying awake in a guest bed, listening to the muffled laughter coming from the master bedroom, laughter that stops the second you walk into the room. We are taught from a very young age that a man's home is his castle. We are told that if we provide, if we protect, if we show up every day and build a foundation, we will have a sanctuary. But what happens when the castle turns into a hostile territory? What happens when the very people you have dedicated your life to shielding from the world turn their shields against you? This isn't a rant. This isn't an emotional outburst. This is a cold, calculated autopsy of a dead marriage. This is the documentation of how a healthy family dynamic can be weaponized from the inside, and how an unholy alliance can turn a strong man into a ghost in his own hallway. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're exposing the reality of the domestic fracture. Let's talk about how it begins. It never starts with a massive explosion. It starts with a shift, a slow, systemic realignment of loyalty. In a healthy household, the marriage is the bedrock. The partnership between a husband and a wife is the anchor that holds the entire ship steady. Children are nurtured, loved, and protected, but they do not set the rules, and they do not dictate the power dynamics. But then, the shift happens. It starts small. You set a boundary. Maybe it's about respect, maybe it's about household responsibilities, or maybe it's about how your wife's daughter speaks to you. It's a reasonable standard, but instead of your partner standing shoulder to shoulder with you, reinforcing that boundary, she steps out of the alignment. She moves across the room and stands behind her daughter. Suddenly, healthy parenting transforms into a coalition against your authority. You aren't just dealing with a defiant teenager or an argumentative young adult anymore. You are dealing with a unified front. Every time you try to enforce a rule or maintain a standard of respect, it is met with a synchronized defense. Your wife becomes an advocate for the defiance rather than a partner in the leadership. I remember the exact moment the illusion shattered for me. It was a Tuesday evening. A simple disagreement about basic respect turned into a full-on confrontation. My wife's daughter looked me dead in the eye and said something intentionally cruel, something designed to undercut my position in this house. I looked at my wife, waiting for the correction. I waited for the partner I married to say, "You will not speak to your stepfather that way." Instead, my wife looked at her, smiled softly, and validated her. She chose to protect her daughter's right to be malicious over our marital partnership. In that exact second, the hierarchy of the home was permanently broken. The emotional toll of that realization is paralyzing. You don't get angry at first. You get hollow. You realize that the walls you pay for, the roof you maintain, and the space you provide have become a stage for your own exile. You become a stranger in your own home. You walk into the kitchen, and conversations suddenly drop to a whisper. You see your boundaries vanish like smoke, and you realize that your presence is no longer respected. It is merely tolerated for the utility you provide. When betrayal becomes a daily routine, it exacts a massive psychological cost. It changes your brain chemistry. Imagine waking up every single day knowing that the two people under your roof, the two people you are biologically and socially conditioned to protect, are actively mocking you behind your back. It's the smirks exchanged across the dinner table when you speak. It's the shared texts between them while you're sitting right across from them on the couch. It's the casual eye rolls when you voice an opinion. This constant psychological dripping wears down even the strongest armor. You begin to experience a state of hypervigilance in the one place you are supposed to be able to drop your guard. And don't think for a second that this stay-at-home war stays at home. It bleeds. It bleeds into your professional life. It drains your mental well-being. This year, I watched my focus slip. When your emotional baseline is constantly under attack, Your capacity to lead in business, to innovate, and to perform at a high level diminishes. You find yourself sitting in high-stakes meetings, but your mind is looping on the latest domestic ambush. You start questioning your judgment because the people who should know you best are treating you like you're completely invisible. Then comes the breaking point. The moment you realize that the phrase family unity is no longer a beautiful concept, it's a weapon. They use their unity to isolate you. They create a narrative where you are the problem, you are the outsider, and you are the tyrant simply because you asked for basic human decency. They twist your silence into coldness and your boundaries into control. When the household unity becomes a mechanism designed to drive you into psychological isolation, the survival instinct has to kick in. We live in an era of illusions. Social media, public gatherings, family dinners, it's all a stage play. For months, I lived in what I call a cold alliance. True communication was entirely dead. It was replaced by calculated silence and tactical avoidance. We became masters at navigating the house without ever making eye contact. We spoke in logistical terms only. Did you pay the electric bill? Who is picking her up from the mall? No depth, no connection. Just cold administrative management of a failing enterprise. There is a profound, exhausting irony in maintaining a public-facing marriage while living in a private state of war. You put on the suits, you attend the events, you smile for the photos, and people look at you and say, "You guys are such a power couple." But inside, you know that the moment the car doors slam shut on the ride home, the temperature drops to below freezing. You are living with a roommate who isn't just indifferent to you, she is actively rooting for your downfall because it validates her alignment with her daughter. This is exactly why traditional boilerplate advice like just talk it out or go to couples therapy completely fails. Those mechanisms only work when both parties share a common goal of restoration. But when the power dynamic is intentionally skewed, when your partner has tasted the absolute control of a 2-against-1 alliance, she has zero incentive to fix anything. Why would she renegotiate a peace treaty when she believes she's already won the war? Talking it out just gives them more data to use against you. It gives them more insights into your vulnerabilities so they can plan their next tactical avoidance. So what do you do when you realize the war cannot be won? You stop fighting. You begin the internal process of reclaiming your worth after months or maybe years of being treated as an inconvenience. You stop looking for validation from a well that has been poisoned. You look in the mirror and remind yourself of who you were before you allowed this dynamic to erode your spirit. You remember the businesses you built, the obstacles you overcame, and the value you bring to this world. You make a massive strategic shift. You stop trying to fix the unfixable. You stop pleading for respect, because respect that has to be begged for is worthless anyway. Instead, you start documenting reality. You detach emotionally. You become an investigator in your own life. When the mocking happens, you don't argue. You observe. When the boundaries are crossed, you don't yell, you record it mentally and legally. This transition is beautiful. You move from being a victim of their mockery to being a clinical observer of their toxicity. When you look at them through the lens of an observer, the pain disappears. You see their actions for what they truly are, a desperate, unoriginal display of insecurity and dysfunction. You realize that their alliance isn't built on love. It's built on a shared need to have an enemy. And the moment you decide to no longer be that enemy, their alliance loses its entire purpose. We have reached the final threshold. For a long time, they mistook my silence for weakness. They thought my compliance was submission. They didn't realize that my silence was actually a definitive tool for my exit strategy. When a man stops arguing, stops correcting, and stops complaining, it doesn't mean he's given up. It means he's gone. He's just waiting for the paperwork to clear. To anyone watching this right now, especially those trapped in these exact dynamics, know this: you do not owe anyone your destruction. You do not have to sacrifice your mental clarity, your self-respect, or your life's work to maintain the facade of a unified home that is killing you from the inside. In this current landscape, choosing peace over a toxic legacy isn't selfish, it is an absolute necessity. The documentation has officially ended. The new life of self-respect begins today. If this resonated with you, leave a comment below, share your story. Let me know how you reclaimed your boundary. Hit the subscribe button, protect your peace, and I'll see you in the next chapter. Peace.